Admiral Una Park stood on the bridge of the Soul's Fury, her flagship. The massive warship cut through space like a knife. Behind her, 46 more warships followed in perfect formation. They moved fast, faster than any other species in the galaxy would dare to travel. "Status report," Una said calmly. Commander Jin Lee looked up from his tactical station. "All ships reporting ready, Admiral. We're making good time. ETA to Velarin system is 33 hours. 33 hours. It had been 15 hours since they received the distress call. Most species would need weeks to mobilize a fleet this size, months to cross the distance they were covering. But humans didn't have time for slow and careful. People were in danger. That was all that mattered. Una pulled up the intelligence report on her screen. The Krathic Dominion. Pirates and raiders. They had been terrorizing the frontier worlds for decades. Most civilizations just paid them off. It was cheaper than fighting, but humans didn't pay pirates. Humans hunted them. "What do we know about their capabilities?" Una asked. Jin brought up a tactical display. 218 vessels, mix of frigates and destroyers. Their weapons are older models, plasma cannons mostly. Their shields are standard issue, nothing special. And their tactics? They rely on overwhelming numbers, Jin said. They surround their target, threaten orbital bombardment, and wait for surrender. They rarely actually fight. Una nodded slowly. They're bullies. They pick on the weak and run from the strong. Yes, Admiral, but they still outnumber us almost 5-1. Una smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. They're about to learn that humans don't count ships. We count resolve. In the medical bay, Dr. Era Choi was preparing for casualties. She checked her supplies 3 times. Bandages, surgical tools, blood synthesizers. Everything was ready. She hoped she wouldn't need any of it, but hope wasn't a plan. Dr. Choi, a young medic, approached her. "Do you think the Velarans will have many wounded?" Ara looked at him. He was fresh out of training. This would be his first real deployment. "I don't know," she said honestly, "but we'll be ready either way. That's our job. We save lives." The medic nodded. I've never treated an alien before. What if I make a mistake?" "Then you learn and do better next time," Ara said firmly. "But you won't make mistakes. You're trained. You're ready. And most importantly, you care. That's what matters." On the bridge, Lieutenant Minho Kang sat at the helm. His hands moved across the controls with practiced ease. He had been piloting ships since he was 16. Now, at 28, he was one of the best helmsmen in the fleet. "Lieutenant Kang," Admiral Una called out, "how are our jump calculations holding?" "Perfect, Admiral," Minho replied. "We're using the fast jump protocols. It's a rougher ride, but we'll cut our travel time by 40%. Jin frowned. "The other species say fast jumping is reckless, too dangerous." Minho grinned. "That's because they're not very good at it. Humans invented fast jumping. We know what we're doing." Una allowed herself a small smile. That was true. When humans had entered the galactic community 40 years ago, everyone expected them to be primitive. Earth was a death world after all, a planet with extreme weather, dangerous animals, and natural disasters that would terrify most aliens. But humans didn't become weak because of their harsh world. They became strong. They became adaptable. They became survivors. And survivors helped other survivors. "Admiral," Jin said suddenly, "we're receiving updated intelligence from Captain Hyun. He's the cargo ship captain hiding in the asteroid belt." Una read the report. Captain Hyun had been scanning the Krathic fleet for hours. He had mapped their positions, their patrol routes, their command structure. It was good work. Excellent work, actually. "Send a message to Captain Hyun," Una ordered. "Tell him well done. Tell him to stay hidden and stay safe. We'll handle it from here." Jin sent the message, then looked at Una. "Admiral, there's something else you should know. The Krathic captured a human traitor. His name is Dae Han. He was trying to enter the system when the blockade went up." Una's expression darkened. "Are they hurting him?" "Unknown, but he's being held on their flagship." "Then we'll get him back," Una said simply. "Add it to the mission objectives. No human gets left behind. That was another thing that confused other species. Humans cared about individuals. Most galactic civilizations thought in terms of populations and statistics. But humans fought for every single life. It seemed inefficient to aliens. To humans, it was everything. In her quarters, Yuna reviewed the mission plan again. She had been planning this for hours. The approach, the attack pattern, the extraction protocols, everything needed to be perfect. Commander Jin entered after knocking. Admiral, some of the younger officers are nervous. They're wondering if we can really win against those odds. Yuna looked up at him. Jin had been with her for 5 years. He was a good officer, a good friend. What did you tell them? She asked. I told them that humans don't lose when we're fighting for something that matters. Yuna nodded. That's right. But let me tell you something else, Jin. We're not going to Valoran to win a battle. We're going there to save people. That's different. Better. How so? A battle is about defeating the enemy, Yuna explained. Saving people is about protecting the innocent. One is about hate, the other is about love. Love is always stronger. Jin considered this. The Valorans don't even know we're coming. Ambassador Hana knows, Yuna said. And she's keeping it secret because surprise will save lives. The faster we end this, the fewer people get hurt on both sides. You're worried about Krathic casualties too? I'm worried about all casualties, Yuna said. I don't hate the Krathic. I hate what they're doing. If they surrender, we'll accept it. If they fight, we'll win. But either way, I don't want anyone dying who doesn't have to die. Jin smiled. That's very human of you, Admiral. It's the only way to be. The fleet continued through space. Inside each ship, crews prepared in their own ways. Some prayed, some exercised, some wrote letters home just in case. But all of them shared the same determination. They were going to help the Valorans, no matter what it cost. In the mess hall of the Soul's Fury, Marines checked their equipment. Sergeant Bora Kim inspected her squad's armor. Each piece was polished and ready. Listen up, Bora called out. When we get there, we might need to board enemy ships. Remember your training. Fast, clean, efficient. We're not there to kill. We're there to stop them. A young Marine raised his hand. Sergeant, what if they don't stop? Bora looked at him steadily. Then we make them stop, but we give them every chance to surrender first. We're not monsters. We're Marines. We do the hard job so civilians don't have to. The young Marine nodded, looking more confident. Admiral Yuna received another update. The Krathic ultimatum was counting down. 45 hours at the start. Now only 30 hours remained, and the human fleet was still hours away. We need to go faster, Yuna said. Admiral, we're already at maximum safe speed, Minho warned from the helm. Then go faster than safe, Yuna ordered. Calculate a micro-jump. Get us there in 32 hours total. The bridge crew looked shocked. Micro-jumps were dangerous. They required jumping into a system at FTL speeds and dropping out at the last possible second. The timing had to be perfect or they'd crash into a planet. Admiral, Jin said carefully, that's extremely risky. So is letting innocent people die, Yuna replied. Calculate the jump, Lieutenant Kang. We're going in fast and we're going in hard. Minho took a deep breath, then nodded. His fingers flew over the controls. Aye, Admiral. New ETA. 32 hours from now. We'll arrive 4 hours before the ultimatum expires. Good. Inform the fleet. Tell them to prepare for combat operations immediately upon arrival. As the orders went out, Yuna stood alone for a moment. She looked at the stars rushing past. Somewhere ahead, the Valorans were afraid. They thought they were abandoned. They thought no one cared. They were wrong. Because humans had a saying that Yuna believed with all her heart. Evil triumphs only when good people do nothing. And humans were very, very good at doing something about evil. The Soul's Fury and its fleet pushed forward through the darkness. They were coming, and the galaxy was about to remember why you didn't threaten people under human protection. The emergency alarm screamed through the council chamber on Valoran Prime. Counselor Vixtar's antennae twitched in distress as he watched the screens. Red dots filled the display. So many red dots. Each one represented an enemy warship entering his system. How many? He asked, though he feared the answer. 218 ships, Counselor, the sensor operator replied. Her voice shook. They're Krathic pirates. They've formed a blockade around our colonies. Vixtar felt his legs weaken. The Valoran coalition had only 12 patrol craft. 12 small ships against more than 200 warships. It was impossible. Ambassador Hana stood in the corner of the chamber. She was the human representative to the Valoran coalition. She had lived among the Valorans for 3 years now. They were good people, peaceful. They didn't deserve this. We need to send a distress signal, Vixtar said. Contact the Morlasian Defense Pact immediately. Hana stepped forward. Counselor, with your permission, I'll also alert Earth. Vixtar looked at her. Humans were new to the galaxy, only 40 years since first contact. Most species still didn't know what to make of them. They came from a death world, a planet so dangerous that it had shaped them into something fierce. But Hana had always been kind, gentle even. Thank you, Ambassador, Vixtar said, but Earth is very far away. By the time any help arrives. He didn't finish the sentence. They both knew what he meant. Hana nodded and left the chamber. She walked quickly to her office and activated the quantum relay. The device hummed to life, connecting her directly to Earth Fleet Command. This is Ambassador Hana, Station Valoran Prime. Emergency code red. The Valoran system is under attack by Krathic pirates, requesting immediate assistance. The response came within seconds. Copy that, Ambassador. Hold position. Help is coming. Hana felt a small flutter of hope in her chest. She knew something the Valorans didn't know. She knew how humans responded to distress calls. Captain Hyun sat in the bridge of his cargo ship, the Morning Star. He had been delivering medical supplies to one of the outer colonies when the blockade appeared. Now he was stuck. His ship wasn't a warship. It was just a transport vessel, but he couldn't leave. Not while the Valorans were in danger. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the lead Krathic vessel, his communications officer said. Hyun nodded. Put it through. The screen flickered. A Krathic commander appeared. His scales were dark red, almost black. His eyes were cold. This is Commander Velcris of the Krathic Dominion. The Valoran system now belongs to us. All ships will power down and prepare to be boarded. Anyone who resists will be destroyed. Hyun felt anger rise in his throat. This is Captain Hyun of the human vessel Morning Star. These people are under human protection. Leave now. Velcris laughed. It was a harsh, scraping sound. Human? I've heard of your kind. Primitives who stumbled into space recently. You have no authority here, mammal. Power down your ship or be destroyed. The transmission cut off. Hyun looked at his crew. They were all civilians, merchants and traders. But they were also human, and humans didn't abandon their friends. Take us into the asteroid belt, Hyun ordered. We'll hide there and monitor the situation, and start scanning their fleet positions. We might not be able to fight, but we can gather intelligence. On Valoran Prime, Vixtar received the response from the Morlasian Defense Pact. His heart sank as he read it. We regret that we cannot provide military assistance at this time. We are dealing with our own border crisis. We recommend immediate surrender to minimize casualties. We will protest this action through diplomatic channels. Diplomatic channels. Words. Empty words while his people died. Ambassador Hana returned to the council chamber. She saw the despair on Vixtar's face. The Morlasians aren't coming, he said quietly. We're alone. Hana wanted to tell him the truth. She wanted to say that help was already on the way, but her orders were clear. The element of surprise might save lives. So she simply said, Don't give up hope yet, counselor. A new transmission came through. Velcris again. People of the Valoran Coalition. You have 48 hours to surrender. Transfer all your resources to our ships. Evacuate your colonies. If you refuse, we will begin orbital bombardment. Your patrol craft cannot stop us. Your allies have abandoned you. You have no choice. The transmission ended. The council chamber fell silent. One of the younger counselors spoke up. We should fight. Even if we lose, we should fight. And watch our colonies burn? Vixtar said sadly. No, we are not warriors. We will surrender. It is the only way to save our people. Hana felt her jaw tighten. The Valorans were giving up. She understood why. From their perspective, it made sense. But they didn't know humans. They didn't understand what was coming. Far away in the outer system, the Krathic were celebrating. They had done this before. Many times. Find a weak civilization. Threaten them. Take their resources. It was easy profit. War Master Throck stood beside Commander Velcris on the bridge of the flagship Blood Talon. The Valorans will surrender, Throck said confidently. They always do. Peaceful species are so predictable. Velcris nodded. What about that human ship, the cargo vessel? One ship? Throck laughed. It's no threat. Let it hide in the asteroids. After we take the colonies, we'll hunt it down for sport. Neither of them knew that Captain Hyun's sensors were mapping their entire fleet, recording their positions, their weapons, their patrol patterns. All of it was being transmitted back to Earth through the quantum relay. Neither of them knew that 47 human warships were already moving through space at impossible speeds. Neither of them knew that they had just made the worst mistake of their lives. They had threatened people under human protection. Ambassador Hana sat alone in her quarters that night. She looked at the countdown on her screen. 46 hours until the Krathic ultimatum expired. 34 hours until the human fleet arrived. She thought about the Valorans, kind people who spent their days trading and building and creating art. They had never hurt anyone. They had welcomed humanity into the galaxy with open arms when others were suspicious. And now they thought they were alone. Hana smiled grimly. They weren't alone. They had never been alone. Because humans had a rule. A simple rule that every child on Earth learned. When someone asks for help, you help them. No matter the cost, no matter the danger. The Valorans had sent a distress signal into the void, hoping someone would care enough to answer. They were about to learn what happened when humans heard a cry for help. They were about to learn that sometimes the most terrifying thing in the galaxy isn't the predator hunting you. It's the protector coming to save you. 6 hours remained until the Krathic ultimatum expired. On Velaran Prime, civilians crowded into underground shelters. Parents held their children close. The elderly prayed to their gods. Everyone waited for the end. Counselor Vixtar stood in the empty council chamber. Most of his staff had evacuated. Only a few remained, including Ambassador Hana. We should surrender now, one of the remaining counselors said. Why wait? Why let them hurt us? Vixtar's antennae drooped with exhaustion. Pride, he said quietly. Foolish pride. I wanted to believe help would come. Hana stood near the window, looking up at the stars. She knew help was coming. She had received 3 more updates from Admiral Yuna. The fleet was close now, just hours away. But she couldn't tell the Valorans. Not yet. Maintain hope, counselor, Hana said softly. Vixtar looked at her with sad eyes. Hope? Ambassador? I appreciate your kindness. But hope doesn't stop warships. Hana smiled mysteriously. You'd be surprised what hope can do. High above the planet, on the Krathic flagship Blood Talon, Commander Velcris was in an excellent mood. The Valorans would surrender soon. Their resources would make him rich. His crew would feast on the profits. War Master Throck entered the command deck. Commander, our scouts found something interesting. Oh? Velcris turned. What? A human trader ship. It was trying to run the blockade when we caught it. The captain is a merchant named Dae Han. Velcris's eyes glinted with interest. A human? Bring him to me. I want to see what these famous Death Worlders look like. Minutes later, 2 guards dragged Dae Han onto the command deck. He was a middle-aged man with graying hair. His clothes were simple merchant garments. He looked terrified. Velcris circled him slowly. So, you're human. You don't look so dangerous to me. Dae Han swallowed hard. Please, Commander, I'm just a trader. I have nothing you want. Let me go. Nothing I want? Velcris laughed. I want information. Tell me about your military. How many ships does Earth have? Dahan hesitated. I... I don't know. I'm a civilian. I don't know military things. Velcris grabbed Dahan's collar. Don't lie to me, human. I've heard stories about your kind. They say you're warriors. They say you come from a death world. Is it true? Dahan looked into Velcris's eyes. For a moment, his fear seemed to fade. Yes, he said quietly. It's true. Earth is a death world, and humans are exactly what you've heard. Velcris released him, stepping back. Then why do you shake with fear? If humans are so dangerous, why aren't you brave? I'm afraid because I know what's coming, Dahan said. Commander, please, take your fleet and leave this system. Leave now, while you still can. Throck burst out laughing. While we still can? Little mammal, we have 200 warships. How many does your precious Earth have? 5? 10? Dahan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, You hurt these people. The Valorans are good people. They're our friends. And humans don't let their friends get hurt. Velcris smiled cruelly. Your friends are about to surrender, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's something you need to understand about humans, Dahan said. His voice was steady now, no longer shaking. We keep our promises. Always. And we promise to protect the Valorans. With what? Your tiny fleet? Velcris mocked. You should have checked who you were threatening before you came here, Dahan said quietly. You should have asked what happens when humans hear a distress call. Velcris's smile faded slightly. Something in the human's tone made him uneasy. But he pushed the feeling away. This was just a merchant, a nobody. What could one human do? Lock him in the brig, Velcris ordered. Maybe watching his friends suffer will loosen his tongue. As the guards dragged Dahan away, he called back over his shoulder. You still have time to leave, please. I don't want you to die. Velcris watched him go, confused. Why would a prisoner worry about his captor dying? It made no sense. Deep in the asteroid belt, Captain Hyun continued his surveillance. The Morning Star's sensors swept over the Krathic fleet constantly, updating the tactical picture. Captain, his sensor operator said, I'm picking up something strange. There's a distortion at the edge of the system. It's faint, but it looks like stealth signatures. Hyun felt his heart race. How many signatures? I can't tell exactly. At least 40, maybe more. Hyun smiled broadly. That's the fleet. They're here. Maintain sensor silence. Don't let the Krathic know we spotted anything. Aye, Captain. Hyun leaned back in his chair, relief washing over him. The cavalry had arrived. The Valorans didn't know it yet, but they were safe. On Valoran Prime, Lieutenant Gina Song moved through the empty streets. She was a human intelligence officer, assigned to the embassy staff. While everyone else hid underground, Gina was working. She had planted surveillance devices all over the city. Each one fed information back to her datapad. Krathic troop movements, communication frequencies, patrol patterns, everything that might be useful. Gina checked her watch. 6 hours until the ultimatum. But according to her latest encrypted message from the fleet, they would arrive in 3 hours. The Krathic wouldn't even see them coming. She climbed to the roof of a tall building and looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, the Krathic fleet waited. Confident. Arrogant. They had no idea what was about to hit them. Hang on, Gina whispered to the empty city. Just hang on a little longer. In the underground shelter, a young Valoran child asked her mother a question. Mama, why didn't anyone come to help us? The mother held her daughter close. Because space is big, sweetling, and we are small. The child thought about this. But the human ambassador said to have hope. The ambassador is kind. She wanted to make us feel better. I like Ambassador Hana, the child said. She tells good stories. She told me about Earth once. She said it's a scary planet with big storms and mean animals, but the humans learn to be strong. The mother smiled sadly. That's a nice story. She said humans have a rule, the child continued. She said when someone needs help, humans come running, no matter how far, no matter how dangerous. That's a beautiful rule, sweetling. The child looked up at her mother with innocent eyes. So why aren't they here yet? The mother had no answer for that. Above them, in space, the Kratik continued their patrol patterns. They were relaxed, bored even. This job was almost over. Soon, they would collect their payment and leave. None of them noticed the faint distortions at the edge of their sensor range. None of them saw the 47 shapes moving through the darkness like ghosts. None of them realized that their time was running out. On the Soul's Fury, Admiral Yuna gathered her senior officers. They stood around the tactical display, studying the battlefield. "This is it," Yuna said. "We drop out of stealth in 3 hours. Commander Jin, what's our attack plan?" Jin highlighted different sections of the Kratik fleet. They're arranged in 3 groups. One group blockades the planet. One patrols the outer system. One guards their flagship. We'll hit all 3 simultaneously. Casualties? Yuna asked. Ours should be minimal, Jin said. Theirs depends on how quickly they surrender. Make sure all ships know. We fire to disable, not destroy. Target engines and weapons. Give them every chance to stand down. Admiral, one of the younger officers, spoke up. What if they don't surrender? What if they fight? Yuna looked at him steadily. Then we show them why humans are called Deathworlders. But we still give them the choice. Always. Dr. Yo Era entered the briefing room. Medical teams are ready, Admiral. We can handle casualties from both sides if needed. Good. Let's hope we don't need you at all, Doctor. Lieutenant Minho checked his calculations one final time. Admiral, the approach vector is locked. We'll come out of stealth in perfect attack formation. They won't know what hit them. Yuna nodded. Excellent work, everyone. Get some rest. In 3 hours, we go to work. As the officers filed out, Commander Jin stayed behind. Admiral, do you think the Valorans will understand why we kept this secret? Yuna considered this. They'll understand. Fear can make people do desperate things. If they knew we were coming, they might resist. That resistance could trigger the Kratik into attacking early. More people would die. So we let them think they're alone. We let them think they're alone so we can save them, Yuna corrected. It's cruel. But it's the kindest cruelty available, Jin smiled. That's very human logic, Admiral. It's the only logic that matters to me. Alone on the bridge, Yuna looked at the countdown timer. 3 hours. In 3 hours, the Kratik would learn a lesson that every species in the galaxy eventually learned. You could threaten anyone you wanted. You could bully the weak. You could terrorize the peaceful. You could do whatever evil you desired. But the moment you hurt someone under human protection, you stopped being a predator. You became prey. And humans were very, very good at hunting. 45 minutes remained until the Kratik ultimatum expired. On Velaran Prime, Counselor Vixtar prepared to record his surrender message. His hands shook as he stood before the camera. Ambassador Hana stood beside him. She had been checking her datapad constantly for the past hour. Now she looked up and smiled. Counselor, she said softly, wait just a moment before you record that. Vixtar looked at her with confused, sad eyes. Why delay the inevitable, Ambassador? Because, Hana said, I need to send one message first. She activated the holographic communicator. The image of Commander Velkris appeared, looking smug and satisfied. Ah, the human ambassador, Velkris said mockingly. Have you come to beg for your friends? No, Hana said calmly. I've come to deliver a message from Earth Fleet Command. Velkris laughed. Earth? What does Earth have to do with this? You're attacking people under our protection, Hana said. That was a mistake. You have 10 minutes to power down your weapons and leave this system. This is your only warning. The Kratik commander stared at her for a moment, then burst into laughter. His entire bridge crew joined in. Did you just threaten me? A human merchant threatens the Kratik Dominion? I'm not threatening you, Hana said quietly. I'm warning you. There's a difference. Little mammal, I have 200 warships. What can you possibly do? Hana's smile grew wider. You're about to find out. You have 10 minutes. She cut the transmission. Velcris stood on his bridge, still chuckling. Did that just happen? Did that human actually think she could frighten us? War Master Throck shook his head. Deathworlders, they think they're so dangerous. It's almost cute. 9 minutes until we begin the bombardment, Velcris announced. Prepare all weapons. The Valorans chose to be brave. Now they'll learn what that costs. At the edge of the system, Admiral Yuna gave the order. All ships, drop stealth. Attack formation Alpha. Show them what they're dealing with. In an instant, 47 human warships appeared on every Krathic sensor in the system. But they weren't scattered randomly. They had positioned themselves with perfect precision during their approach. They formed a complete sphere around the entire Krathic fleet. On the Blood Talon, alarms screamed. Sensor operators shouted in confusion. Commander, contacts, multiple contacts. How many? Velcris demanded, his amusement vanishing. 47 warships, sir. They're everywhere. They've surrounded us. Velcris felt ice form in his stomach. What? That's impossible. How did they get so close without us seeing them? They're human vessels, sir. Terran fleet signature. The color drained from Velcris's face. The human ambassador hadn't been bluffing. She had been stalling. A transmission came through on all Krathic channels. Commander Jin Lee's face appeared on every screen. This is Commander Jin Lee of the 3rd Human Expeditionary Fleet. You have attacked civilians. You have threatened our allies. By doing so, you have threatened us. You have 30 seconds to power down all weapon systems and prepare to be boarded. If you do not comply, we will disable your ships by force. This is your final warning. Velcris looked at his tactical display. 47 human ships versus his 218. The numbers were still in his favor, weren't they? Sir, what are your orders? Throck asked nervously. Velcris felt his pride override his fear. They're bluffing. They must be. Fire on the nearest human ships. Show them we're not afraid. 20 Krathic vessels opened fire. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked toward the human fleet. On the Soul's Fury, Lieutenant Minho barely reacted. Point defense systems engaging. The human ship's defensive weapons came to life. Laser grids and kinetic barriers swatted the incoming fire aside like insects. Not a single shot reached their targets. Admiral Yuna's voice was cold. They made their choice. All ships, weapons free. Disable their vessels. Try not to destroy them. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations. The human fleet moved with mechanical precision. Each ship knew exactly where to be and when to be there. They flowed through the Krathic formation like water through rocks, never colliding, never hesitating. Railguns fired. The hypersonic projectiles punched through Krathic shields as if they weren't there, tearing engines apart with surgical precision. Plasma cannons targeted weapon systems, melting them into slag. Kinetic missiles launched in waves, each one guided by advanced targeting computers. The Krathic tried to return fire, but human point defense systems rendered their weapons useless. Every shot was intercepted. Every missile destroyed before it could hit. Within 3 minutes, 30 Krathic ships were disabled, drifting helplessly in space. Within 5 minutes, that number had doubled. Velcris watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart. His ships were being disabled so quickly he couldn't even process it. And the humans weren't even taking damage. Not a single human ship had been hit. "Return fire! All ships, return fire!" he screamed. But it was useless. The humans were too fast, too coordinated, too precise. It was like fighting a single organism with 47 bodies. War Master Throck grabbed Velcris's arm. "Commander, we need to retreat. We're being slaughtered." "No!" Velcris shouted. "We outnumber them. We can still win." But even as he said it, he knew it was a lie. This wasn't a battle. This was an execution. On Velaran Prime, everyone crowded around screens showing the battle. They watched in stunned silence as the human fleet tore through their attackers. The young Velaran child who had asked about humans tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mama, look! The humans came! They're here!" Her mother couldn't speak. She just held her daughter and cried. Counselor Vixtar stood beside Ambassador Hana, his antennae trembling with emotion. How, how is this possible? Hana smiled. Humans don't abandon their friends, counselor. We told you that from the beginning. But there are so few of them. How are they winning? Because they're not fighting for conquest, Hana explained. They're fighting to protect you. That makes all the difference. In space, the battle continued. More accurately, the dismantling continued. Human ships worked in perfect coordination, targeting engines, weapons, and shield generators. They crippled ship after ship without destroying them. Captain Hyun watched from his hiding place in the asteroid belt, tears of pride streaming down his face. That's my fleet, he whispered. That's humanity. Some Krathic ships tried to flee. Human vessels pursued them with frightening speed, cutting off escape routes, forcing them to stop. One by one, the pirate ships surrendered or were disabled. 8 minutes into the battle, 50 Krathic ships had surrendered. 30 more were disabled. 20 had been destroyed when they refused to stop fighting. Velkrus watched his fleet collapse around him. His hands shook. His breath came in gasps. This couldn't be happening. It couldn't be real. Admiral Yuna's face appeared on his screen. Commander Velkrus, your fleet is broken. Half your ships are disabled, the rest are surrounded. You cannot win, you cannot flee. Surrender now, and I give you my word that you and your crews will be treated fairly. Fairly? Velkrus spat. You'll execute us. We're not you, Yuna said simply. We don't kill prisoners. Surrender. Please. I don't want to destroy your ship with you on it. Velkrus looked around his bridge. His crew stared at him with desperate eyes. They wanted to live. He wanted to live too. But his pride wouldn't let him quit. Not yet. Not to humans. All remaining ships, he ordered. Focus all fire on their flagship. If we're going down, we're taking their admiral with us. Every working Krathic vessel turned and fired at the Soul's Fury. A massive wave of plasma and missiles converged on Admiral Yuna's ship. Lieutenant Minho's hands flew across the controls. Evasive maneuvers. Point defense at maximum. The Soul's Fury danced through the incoming fire. Its weapon systems intercepted hundreds of projectiles. The few shots that got through splashed harmlessly against its shields. And then the human fleet responded. Every human warship targeted the Blood Talons simultaneously. Railguns, plasma cannons, and missiles all fired at once. The combined firepower was devastating. The Blood Talon's shields collapsed. Its engines exploded. Its weapon systems melted. Within seconds, Velkrus's flagship was a drifting wreck. On the bridge, emergency lights flickered. Smoke filled the air. Velkrus pulled himself up from where he had been thrown by the impact. Admiral Yuna's face appeared on his screen one last time. It's over, Commander. Stand down. Velkrus looked at his ruined bridge, at his injured crew, at the tactical display showing his destroyed fleet. The battle had lasted 15 minutes. 15 minutes to utterly defeat a force that had terrorized the frontier for years. He had never stood a chance. Velkrus's voice broke. I surrender. The Krathic fleet surrenders. Smart choice, Yuna said. Medical teams are on the way to help your wounded. The transmission ended. Velkrus collapsed into his chair, defeated. Throughout the system, the remaining Krathic ships powered down their weapons. It was over. On Valoran Prime, people emerged from the shelters in disbelief. They looked up at the sky where human ships now patrolled protectively. The young child looked at her mother. I told you the humans would come. Her mother hugged her tight. You were right, sweetling. You were right. Counselor Vixtar turned to Ambassador Hana with tears in his eyes. Thank you. Thank you for not giving up on us. Hana smiled warmly. Humans never give up on their friends. 1 week had passed since the battle. The Valoran system had changed in ways no one could have imagined. Human ships still patrolled the space above the colonies, but now they moved peacefully. Protectors, not warriors. On Valoran Prime, the streets were full of life again. Children played in the parks. Merchants reopened their shops. But everywhere you looked, you saw humans helping. Human engineers repaired damaged buildings. Human doctors treated the injured. Human diplomats helped organize relief efforts. Admiral Yuna walked through the main square with Counselor Vixtar. People stopped to watch them pass. Some waved, some bowed. All of them showed deep respect. "Your people don't have to stay," Vixtar said. "The danger has passed. You've done so much already." Yuna smiled. "We'll stay until we're sure you're safe. That's what friends do." "Friends?" Vixtar repeated the word slowly. "A week ago I thought we had no friends. Now I understand that we've had them all along. We just didn't know how to recognize them." They reached the central plaza where a ceremony was being prepared. Thousands of Valorans had gathered. On a raised platform, human and Valoran flags flew side by side. Commander Jin stood near the stage, reviewing security protocols. When he saw Admiral Yuna, he approached and saluted. "Admiral, everything is ready. The ceremony can begin whenever you're prepared." "How are the Krathic prisoners?" Yuna asked. "Secured and healthy. Dr. Isim Ara's team has been treating their wounded. Most of them seem confused that we're helping them." Yuna nodded. "They expected execution. Instead, they got medical care. That's the difference between us and them." The ceremony began. Counselor Vixtar stood at the podium, addressing his people and the galaxy through broadcast. "7 days ago, we faced extinction," he began. "The Krathic fleet surrounded us. Our allies could not help. We prepared to die or surrender. Then something happened that we did not expect. Someone answered our distress call." He gestured to where Admiral Yuna stood with her officers. Humanity crossed the stars at impossible speed. They faced overwhelming odds without hesitation. They asked for nothing in return. They simply helped because we needed help. Vixtar's voice grew emotional. "We are a peaceful people. We do not understand war. We do not understand violence. But now we understand something else. We understand friendship. True friendship. The kind that crosses galaxies. The kind that risks everything for strangers." The crowd erupted in applause. Some Valorans were crying openly. "From this day forward," Vixtar declared, "the Valoran coalition and humanity are bound together. Not as master and servant, not as protector and protected, but as family. As brothers and sisters who will always answer each other's calls." Admiral Yuna stepped forward to speak. She looked out at the sea of alien faces watching her with hope and gratitude. "People of Valoran," she began simply, "you thank us for coming, but we should thank you. You reminded us why we explore space, not for conquest, not for resources, but for connections, for finding good people worth protecting." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Many species in this galaxy are afraid of humans. They call us Deathworlders. They think we're violent and dangerous. And they're right, in a way. We are dangerous, but not to our friends. Only to those who hurt our friends." The crowd listened in absolute silence. "On Earth, we have a saying," Yuna continued. "We judge people not by what they do when things are easy, but by what they do when things are hard. When you were threatened, you could have fled. You could have surrendered immediately, but you stood firm. You protected your people. That's courage. That's honor. That's why we came." She smiled warmly. "We're not heroes. We're just people who believe in doing the right thing. And the right thing was helping you." The applause was deafening. It continued for several minutes. Later, in the human medical facility, Dr. Era walked among the patients. Some were Valorans injured during the evacuation. Others were Krathic prisoners wounded in the battle. She treated them all the same. A young Krathic warrior watched her suspiciously as she checked his bandages. "Why do you help us? We attacked your friends. We would have killed them." Era looked at him steadily. "Because you're hurt. That's reason enough. But we're your enemies." "You were my enemies," Era corrected. "Past tense. Now you're just someone who needs medical care. And I'm a doctor. Helping people is what I do." The Krathic warrior was quiet for a long time. "I don't understand humans." Era smiled. "Most species don't. We're complicated. But here's something simple. We believe everyone deserves a chance to be better than they were yesterday. Even you." In the military section of the station, Daehan was reunited with Captain Hyun. The two men embraced like brothers. I thought you were dead, Hyun said. Almost was, Daehan replied. Velcris had me in his brig. I tried to warn him. I told him to leave. He wouldn't listen. Some people have to learn lessons the hard way. Daehan laughed. The fleet arrived so fast I couldn't believe it. One moment I'm a prisoner expecting to die. The next moment, human marines are cutting through the door saying, "We've got you, buddy." That's humanity for you, Hyun said proudly. No one gets left behind. Lieutenant Gina was teaching a class to young Velaran security officers. She showed them human tactical doctrines on a holographic display. This is called aggressive defense, she explained. You don't wait for the enemy to attack. You identify the threat and neutralize it before it can hurt anyone. A Valoran officer raised his hand. But isn't that violent? It can be, Gina admitted. But consider the alternative. If we had waited, if we had been passive, how many Valorans would have died? Sometimes violence is necessary to prevent greater violence. Another officer asked, "How do you know when to fight?" Gina thought about this. That's the hardest question. Here's what we teach in human military. Fight only when necessary. Fight only to protect. Fight only as a last resort. But when you must fight, fight to win quickly. The faster it ends, the fewer people suffer. The Valoran officers nodded slowly, trying to understand this alien concept. In the administrative center, Ambassador Hana met with representatives from across the galaxy. News of the human rescue had spread quickly. Now everyone wanted to know more about humanity. A diplomat from the Morlasian Defense Pact approached her, looking ashamed. Ambassador Hana, we owe you an apology. We should have helped the Valorans. We abandoned them. Hana kept her expression neutral. You had your own problems. We understand. But you came, even though Valoran is far from Earth, even though you had no obligation. We had every obligation, Hana said firmly. They called for help. That's all the obligation we need. Another representative, from a species called the Tarsian Collective, asked nervously, Ambassador, many species are now frightened of human military power. They worry about your intentions. Hana met his eyes. Tell them this. Humanity has no interest in conquest. We have no interest in empire. We have plenty of space to grow into without taking anyone else's. But we do have interest in protecting those who can't protect themselves. That's not a threat. That's a promise. The representative seemed uncertain. But what if someone attacks you? Then we defend ourselves, Hana said simply. We're not pacifists. We're pragmatists. We'll fight if we must. But we'd rather build friendships. Friendships are stronger than fear. On the third day after the battle, Velcris was brought before a tribunal. It wasn't a human tribunal. The galactic community wanted to handle this themselves, but Admiral Yuna attended as an observer. Velcris looked smaller now, defeated. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something like shame. The tribunal judge asked him, Commander Velcris, do you understand the charges against you? Yes, Velcris said quietly. You attacked a peaceful civilization. You threatened civilians. You demanded tribute through force. How do you plead? Velcris looked at Admiral Yuna. She watched him calmly without hatred or malice. Just watching. Guilty, he said. I'm guilty of all charges. The judge nodded. You will be sentenced to rehabilitation and labor service. You will spend the next 20 years helping rebuild what you tried to destroy. After the trial, Velcris asked to speak with Admiral Yuna. Guards brought him to a private room where she waited. I don't understand you, Velcris said. I threatened your friends. I captured your people. Why didn't you destroy me when you had the chance? Yuna studied him. Because destruction is easy. Building is hard. Anyone can kill. Not everyone can show mercy. Mercy? I don't deserve mercy. Maybe not, Yuna agreed. But the Valorans taught us something important. They showed us that peaceful people exist, people who never wanted to hurt anyone. And if peaceful people like them can exist, then violent people like you can change, can become peaceful too. Velcris shook his head. I was a pirate for 30 years. I hurt so many people. Then spend the next 30 years helping people, Yuna said simply. You can't change the past, but you can choose the future. That's what humans believe. Everyone deserves a chance at redemption. 1 week after the rescue, the human fleet prepared to depart. Not all of them. A small squadron would remain to help establish proper defenses, but most needed to return to their regular duties. Counselor Vixtar came to the flagship to say goodbye to Admiral Una. They stood in the observation deck, looking out at Valoran Prime. "Will we see you again?" Vixtar asked. "Of course," Una said. "We're building an embassy here. Ambassador Hana is staying. We're family now. Family visits regularly." Vixtar's antennae quivered with emotion. "Admiral, I need to know something. If another species calls for help, will you answer? Even if they're strangers like we were?" Una smiled. "Counselor, you asked if we'll answer other distress calls. The answer is yes. We'll answer every distress call we can reach. That's who we are. That's who we'll always be." "But why? Why do humans care so much?" Una was quiet for a moment, thinking. "Because we remember being alone. Thousands of years ago, humans were just one small tribe on Earth, afraid and vulnerable. We survived because we learned to help each other. We learned that together we're stronger than apart." She looked at Vixtar directly. "When we reached the stars, we brought that lesson with us. We're all tribes now. Different species, different worlds. But we're all out here in the darkness together. And in the darkness, you help the people near you. Because someday, you might need help too." Vixtar understood. "You save others because you hope others would save you." "Exactly," Una said. "We don't just hope, though. We prove it. Every time we answer a distress call, we prove that help exists, that someone cares, that no one is truly alone." The human fleet departed the next morning. Thousands of Valorans gathered to watch them go. Children waved at the sky, adults cried openly. Everyone knew they were watching their saviors leave. But they also knew something else. They knew that humans would come back if needed. They knew they were protected. They knew they mattered. In the months that followed, the story spread across the galaxy. The tale of how aliens issued a distress signal and got the human fleet instead. How humanity crossed impossible distances to save strangers. How they fought overwhelming odds and won. Other species began to change their opinions about humans. Yes, they were dangerous. Yes, they came from a death world. But they were dangerous to the right people. They protected the weak instead of preying on them. 17 species requested defense treaties with Earth. 23 more opened diplomatic channels. The Krathic Dominion dissolved, its members seeking honest work instead of piracy. And throughout it all, humans kept answering distress calls. Every single one they could reach. Because that's what humans did. In the Valoran archives, Elder Sirax made the final entry in the official record of the rescue. "Today we learned the truth about humanity. They are not the strongest species. They are not the smartest. They are not the oldest or wisest. But they are the kindest. And in a galaxy that often feels cold and empty, kindness is the greatest strength of all." We called for help not knowing if anyone would hear. We were answered by a species that hears every call. May we never forget what we learned. In the darkness of space, humans are the light that answers when you cry out. They are proof that goodness exists, that help will come, that no one stands alone.